These surgical procedures are so brutal and so experimental that they're I'm going to say it again, they're worse than what the Mengele types did in the concentration camps in the 30s and 40s.
So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
Transphobia literally breaks people's brains. It's been obvious in recent years with people like J.K. Rowling, who could have had a great legacy as a beloved children's author, but who instead decided to take on a whole new career as the on-call transphobe. Elon Musk and Jordan Peterson have obviously been transphobic for a long time, but even their recent comments show a whole new level of brain damage. I want to talk about their disgusting and unhinged takes, but even more importantly, because of the recent gender scandal in the Olympics, I want to talk about intersex people in sports and how transphobia doesn't only affect trans people. Let's start with Elon. In a recent interview with Jordan Peterson, Elon talked about how he is an awful dad who abandoned his transgender child, or in his words, how the woke mind virus killed his son.
And so I lost my son, essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right, so the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. It's incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
it won't stop till that happens. All right, so let's...
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that. And we're making some progress.
Join the club.
Yeah.
He's of course talking about his trans daughter, who is very much alive and who seems very happy with her transition. What she doesn't seem to be so happy about is her transphobic dad, with whom she has cut all ties.
And then they give them sterilizing drugs, which are called also a misnomer, puberty blocker. These are sterilization drugs, so they can never have children again.
Yeah.
They can have double mastectomies, the mutilation.
They have their forearms stripped to build non-functioning penises.
Yeah. It's macabre.
Elon obviously spread the usual misinformation about how puberty blockers are sterilizing drugs. Yeah, temporarily while you're taking them, but normally they don't have any long-term effects on fertility. Or the usual bullshit about genital surgery on kids, which isn't a real thing that happens. But the worst thing to me is how terribly he talks about his own child. Rarely have I seen anyone be so openly unsupportive and vile towards their own children in public, whether they are trans or not. But hey, what can you expect from a parent who names his child as some incomprehensible coupon code? And Jordan Peterson, a psychologist, should understand how damaging it is to talk about your own child in public like that. But of course, there are a lot of things Jordan should understand, but clearly doesn't. I hope he doesn't have any credibility left among psychologists, because if he does, I'm genuinely worried about the quality of the entire field. And speaking about Jordan Peterson, he recently said that people who provide gender-affirming care are worse than Nazis.
It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing I've seen professionals do, not only in my lifetime. I've studied atrocity for 40 years. I've never seen anything worse than what's happening right now. And that includes the sorts of things that were done in the camps in Germany. At least the goddamn Nazis admitted what they did was wrong. They tried to hide it. We trumpet it as a moral virtue. We're freeing the children. It's like, no, I don't think so, mothers. I think what you're doing is sacrificing your child to the parading of your moral virtue. Oh, my son, he's so confused. He thinks he's a girl, but I still love him. That's how wonderful I am. Jesus Christ, Joe. You have no idea how dark that is.
It's dark. It's terrifying. And it's so strange because I never would have believed that this could happen. If
Well,
you had
and-
asked me 20 years ago if this was going to be a main concern, that people were worried about their children being roped into this ideology and convinced that they're
And then
authentic
sterilized and
self-
mutilated.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
So, giving people medical care that they seek and consent to is worse than forcing people to undergo brutal experiments that often killed them and gassing those who were not selected for the experiments or who were no longer useful. He's saying that giving children puberty blockers after careful evaluation is worse than deliberately causing people hypothermia and then throwing them into boiling water, or suffocating people in low-altitude chambers, or giving people nothing else to eat or drink except seawater. Just to give you a few examples of the Nazi medical experiments testing the limits of what a human body can take. And he says Nazis weren't as bad because they knew what they did was wrong. First of all, in the case of many of the Nazi doctors, it's not even true that they knew that what they did was wrong. Many of them, including Mengele and Aribert Heim, got away with it with no punishment and seemingly with no remorse. After all, they believed their guinea pigs were Untermenschen or subhuman. But let's say they knew it was wrong. Is he saying that it's worse to provide healthcare that you believe is in the best interest of the patient and following the standards of care than it is to do something you know is evil, but doing it anyway? What a weird take, especially from a psychologist.
We were called by number. And then Klauberg or some other guy injected something into our vaginas. And then he said, "No more children."
I was in perfect health. I'd never seen an X-ray machine before. I remember exactly what it was like. A huge machine with two frames with wooden blocks. You stood between the two racks with one wooden block in front and one in the back.
Klauberg's non-surgical sterilization was only one method the SS tried. SS doctor Horst Schumann also experimented with X-ray radiation at the same time.
For the first ones, it went very quickly. I was the second. I didn't notice anything bad, just a little redness. The first woman showed nothing at all. But it started to take longer and longer. The third woman had visible marks, the fourth even more. The last ones were doubled over in severe pain, nauseous, vomiting.
Des nausées, des vomissements.
Every single one had to lie on the table once that day. You had to put your legs over the frame. You were naked from the waist down. And you had to be silent. You weren't allowed to scream. Dr. Klauberg gave me an injection. He gave me an injection into the ovary. And then I was sent back upstairs to my bed. I had to lie there for 3 days and nights in pain. Terrible pain.
If these women were still alive, I would like to see Jordan tell them that what they went through is worse than giving children puberty blockers. Or no, I wouldn't actually want to see that, because it would be unimaginably cruel to the survivors. I think it would be a form of Holocaust denial. And now, to the Olympic scandal. Conservatives and other transphobes have been going insane over the Algerian boxer Iman Khalif's gender. I'm not sure if it's pronounced Iman or Imani, so sorry if I mispronounce it. She is not transgender, and in her country it's not even possible to legally change your gender in your ID. So she has been assigned female at birth and always lived as a woman. But because of her masculine appearance, transphobes from J.K. Rowling, Elon, Richard Dawkins, Riley Gaines, Logan Paul, the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, have called her a man and blamed her of deceiving and pretending to be a woman to compete in women's sports. But she was assigned female at birth. In other words, born with a vagina. In last year's World Championship, she failed to pass the gender test, and it's unclear from the sources whether it was because of testosterone levels or chromosomes. But whatever the reason is, chances are that the gender test was the first time she learned that she may not be biologically 100% a woman. And in any case, she passed the International Olympic Committee's criteria for participating in the women's category. These transphobes always say that sex is not assigned but observed. So if one is born with a vagina, shouldn't she be a woman enough for these so-called women's rights advocates? And they say they know what a woman is, unlike the trans rights activists and other victims of the woke mind virus. But if someone who was born with a vagina becomes a man, if they have one single trait that is not within the typical female range, then what is a man? Anyone who is not 100% biologically female? So if you are just like 95% biologically female, then to them you are a man. They don't even consider you someone whose biological sex is somewhat ambiguous. No, simply a man. So to them, a man is someone who doesn't fit their very strict parameters of a typical female, even if the person doesn't fit most of the parameters of a typical male either. It's a completely different thing to talk about possible testosterone limits or the need to suppress testosterone for women with naturally high testosterone levels. But the transphobe are just completely unable to have this conversation without the transphobia, even when it's not even about a trans athlete. And also, male athletes are allowed to have genetic advantages, and those advantages are even admired and celebrated. So why aren't intersex women, those who were observed to be female at birth, allowed to enjoy their potential special talents? Intersex people are such an invisible minority in our society that if some of them are particularly good at something, can't we just admire and celebrate that too? And no matter what, if you spend a lot of time obsessing over trans people, imagining baby dicks being chopped off, which isn't a real thing that happens, or transvestigating people who you don't think fit the gender norms neatly enough, seriously, seek help. It's not healthy to be that obsessive. And I'm sure you would feel happier if you could let go of the constant hate and worry. But don't seek help from someone like Dr. Peterson. That's it for today's video. Remember to press the like button and subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon for notifications. Bye!